The NFL Combine has started. Draft season is upon us. So I know you're all wondering, what do we make of these rookie running backs? Well, today we have the NFL comps for the top 8 running backs on our big boards. And if you missed it on Wednesday, Ty and Lucas talked about the wide receivers. So today we get the running backs. And if you've heard anything about this class, it's that outside of this first guy, Jeremiyah Love, it's pretty disappointing is kind of the narrative going around. So stay tuned. We'll kind of talk through it, where we're at on some guys. Reminder for these comps, these are stylistic comps right now. We're not saying that they are going to have the career path of these players, especially before we know draft capital, draft spots. So all of that to come. But if this is your first introduction to some of these guys, you're welcome. But we're going to start with Jeremiyah Love. We're not going to spend a lot of time here because if you've heard anything about this, he is a pretty surefire kind of guy. He's the Ashton Genty of this class. He's the Bijan Robinson of this class. PFF on their big board has him as the 4th best player. Ty, is that warranted? Are we overhyping it with Jeremiyah Love? I assume no. I assume you're as all in as everybody else is on this guy.
Yeah, Jeremiyah Love is the real deal. He is a chunk play threat at all times in both facets of the game, in rushing and receiving. The footwork, outstanding. The burst, the acceleration, the speed, excellent. There's just not many flaws to his game. If we want to nitpick, it's just that the dude loves to go airborne. Like, there are so many times where he tries to just jump over guys. Like, I think it's in the Texas A&M game. I'm trying to remember exactly. He tries to jump over his blocker that's right in front of him because he's like, well, I can't. I'm out of options. I got to go over. And so it leaves him a bit vulnerable to some big hits then. But again, that's pretty coachable. That's not just like a flaw, a flaw that can never be, ironed out or anything like that. So for real, Jeremiyah Love is the real deal. He is 101 in rookie drafts. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And I'm not even going to add anything to it. It's that's my favorite video going around on Twitter right now, is Jeremiyah Love looks like he just spams the Y and B button on Madden every single play because it's either a spin move or a hurdle every time he touches the ball.
Time.
And he's good at it, so it's hard to blame the guy because he's a home run threat every time he touches it. But with that in mind, if you have to make your comp now for Jeremiyah Love, who are you comparing him to?
I get shades of Jahmyr Gibbs here with Jeremiyah Love. I think Gibbs was a bit better cutting laterally than Jeremiyah Love. But when it comes to speed, when it comes to vision, when it comes to receiving capabilities, because it's not just like really good hands for Jeremiyah Love, like Jeremiyah Love can actually run routes. So he is, like I said, again, he is the real deal, the complete package. Like Jahmyr Gibbs has eventually become here now in Detroit, where we're now talking about like David Montgomery. Yeah, he's probably going to be more involved this year, but there were conversations during the season last year, just like Jahmyr Gibbs might just be the dude because he can do everything.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs, to me, he's in a conversation for best non-quarterback in the NFL. That's where I stake my claim. Like, he is unbelievable to watch. For me, it is pre-ACL tear Breece Hall. We only got 7 games of it in the NFL, but special home run hitter, right? I mean, he just can do things on the field that you're like, oh, you're really good. He's one of those guys that never has to come off the field because he can do it all. So it's pretty much just, hey, go be you, essentially, is what every coach is going to tell him. So that's where I'm at. Again, as you can tell, 2 very high level comps for fantasy football. There's a lot of expectations around this guy. I know, after last season, everyone's like, if you had Ashton Genty and you're, oh, well, that kind of stunk. I don't know about that. This guy, I don't know. He's Ashton Genty, right? You had the question mark of playing in the Mountain West. This guy played at Notre Dame and dominated everybody. He looked good against Texas A&M, who was a dominant defense. He looked good against Miami. Like, so he can just do it all, and he is an absolute stud. We're gonna move to his teammate now, and this is where the conversation starts, right, Ty? This is where we get a little bit more of, hey, you can nitpick, you can have a difference in opinion. If you have any of these other guys as your RB1 over Jeremiyah Love, you're just putting out clickbait. You're just saying stuff to be different. From here on out, though, you can kind of go wherever you want. Jadarian Price, he is our 2. We talked about it a little bit in the rookie mock draft we did. I think we both agree that he's our 2. If you're looking at him stylistically, though, who do you see in his game?
So I really wanted to go with like a David Montgomery comp here because I felt I like, which is ironic with the Jahmyr Gibbs comp, but that's the vibe that I got with Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price in this Notre Dame backfield, of a kind of Sonic and Knuckles type of partnership is the best way to say it. I ultimately landed on, I don't want to call him an old head. I don't want to age us at all with this comp, but I landed on D'Angelo Williams, the longtime Carolina Panther running back, where he's not easy to bring down, good balance when he's hit, and he keeps the legs turning for extra yards. The vision and the patience is there. I will say, some of the film, specifically at the beginning of the year, that vision and the patience was not very good, but then it really improved. Like it got substantially better in the second half of the year. So again, that's where I kind of had like the David Montgomery hopes, because it's just like, man, like when they started clicking and Jadarian Price actually got on the field and got some consistent playing time, even though it wasn't a whole lot, it was still more than what he was getting before. He made an impact. So I again, D'Angelo Williams is my comp. I kind of see where Daniel Jeremiah is going with him. He has him ranked as his number 43 guy in his top 50. And I can completely see it, where he may not be the 3-down modern day NFL back, but he is going to make a difference in the early downs, because again, you can feel the burst, the vision outside the tackles. Like it is, it's a lot better than going between the tackles, but again, the vision and patience between the tackles got better as the year went on. So Jadarian Price, definitely not as electric as Jeremiyah Love, but he'll be a mainstay in his landing spot for a very long time, because he's going to be efficient. He's going to be productive as kind of the early down, short yardage guy in his backfield.
I'm going to be honest. I keep going back and forth on Jadarian Price of where I'm at. And I think what I've landed on is a little James Cook light is essentially where I've gotten to with him. And so when I say light, obviously you can see looking 6 receptions. We don't know what the receiving work is going to look like for him in the NFL, right? He's not a prolific receiving back coming out. We've seen guys like Kenneth Walker show, hey, I just haven't been given the opportunity. They didn't throw the running back a lot in this backfield in general. So that's part of it, but I wouldn't be banking on him being the James Cook receiving back. When I watch him run, though, that's where I see it in the cuts. He's constantly going downhill. He gets in and out of cuts quickly. He's got great burst, but then another part where the light comes in is he doesn't have the same top end speed as James Cook, right? James Cook, when James Cook is gone, James Cook is gone. Jadarian Price gets there quick. It's just he doesn't have that where he's going to be breaking these super long runs. So maybe you're going to call me a cheater for that, because I took away 2 of the main things that James Cook is great at. I just see it in the way that his body's moving. He looks like his head's going over his toes, but then all of a sudden we'll make a cut off of a guy where he's just untouched. So looks like he's almost out of, falling over himself, but at the same time, he's really good at just moving laterally quickly.
Yeah, and even like the James Cook film when he was coming out of Georgia, there is the similarity with him and Price in that they both were pretty hesitant
Yeah.
when the rushing lanes didn't really develop.
Mhm.
So, you could see Jeremiyah Love like think on his toes and he could make something happen on the, in the moment. Price and James Cook didn't really do that. So there was a lot of like, well, I'm just going to trust the path because that's where I'm supposed to go. And then it only results in a 1 or 2 yard gain, which again, it's better than 0, but like it kind of makes you want to pound your head into the desk when you're watching the film because you're just like, this is so boring. Like this is so there is some hope that like, hey, maybe with some NFL coaching, with more regular playing time, we can kind of get out of that funk a little bit where we can be a bit more decisive and make things happen when the rushing lane isn't there. So we'll see. That's going to be pretty dependent on the landing spot. But for Jadarian Price, there are some things where you're like, man, if he finds that right spot, he might be like when it comes to fantasy, like he's going to be somebody that you're like, you know what, like sneaky good value here or a sneaky good piece because I know that he's going to have a role for years and years.
Exactly. And that's the good part about it in the modern NFL is you don't need to be a great receiving back to have a good role in the NFL moving forward. So he's a guy exactly like I said. And to go along, James Cook early in his career, just like we saw with Price last season, a little bit of a fumbling issue. So, just some more parallels that not a great thing, right? I'm not saying that as a plus, but just another parallel to James Cook. We then get Ty a little deeper into the conversation now. We have Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson, 2 guys that I think are going to challenge Price on people's big boards for this running back 2 spot. We're going to start with Jonah Coleman. And obviously, it's going to depend a lot on draft capital for these guys, right? If they're all day 2 picks, then it's a little bit closer. If one of them falls to day 3, then obviously the narrative changes. Jonah Coleman, interesting build. He's 5'9", 220. So he's built a little bit more like a bowling ball. When you look at this guy, right, 17 touchdowns last year. I'm going to ask you a little 2-parter. First, quickly, do you think he challenges Jadarian Price as we get further in the draft process for that running back 2? And then second, who does he remind you of?
So I'll start with the first question. I think Price is going to be locked in. I think, in my opinion, Price is already locked in as RB2. And I think Coleman, just because of the production that he had, that was kind of giving him or keeping him in the discussion. But actually, when you like look into the film of Jonah Coleman, you don't want to say that it's not highlight heavy or anything, but it is just, it's like a B on a report card, if that makes sense, where it's just like, it's not an A+, but he's not failing. He's not making things worse. So it's just not flashy versus Jadarian Price. He has the ability to break off a chunk play. Jonah Coleman is just not that at this moment. So again, I think Price is pretty locked in as running back 2, Coleman as running back 3. My comp then as the second question here, I kind of a 2-parter in some ways where I've got a high end and I've got a low end because I'm like, I can't really like pinpoint right now the style runner that he is. But a high end comp, this is the David Montgomery for me, where it's like, again, you are rugged, you are tough, you fight for extra yards after contact every single time. And again, like when David Montgomery was coming out of college, he was again the B- on the report card of just like, it's not flashy, but he's not going to do anything wrong, and he's not going to make a situation worse by any means. But on the low end, I've got CJ Anderson, who had like maybe 1 year, 2 years of relevancy.
Playoff run. Yep.
Right. So that's the thing, because CJ Anderson like was there for a specific time and place, but the skill set, at least in my opinion, for the modern day NFL isn't a great fit just because CJ Anderson is the bowling ball. Like you said with Jonah Coleman is not fast. He does not have great top end speed. The acceleration is not great either. So not having that again in modern day NFL just limits your ceiling. And so he might find a landing spot, he gets an opportunity, but if he doesn't take advantage of that opportunity, he might be another CJ Anderson in the sense that, like, yeah, you're there for 1 or 2 years, but then after that, it's just kind of like you're going to float around from team to team as kind of a depth piece because teams know that you can be trusted in a pinch, but they're not going to try to get you out there at all times.
Yeah, and I think too, this is the part of the conversation where this is landing spot draft capital matters a ton for these guys. Those first 2 Notre Dame guys feels pretty locked in no matter what happens, right? They're going to both be, Jeremiyah Love is going to be an early first round pick, mid first round pick at the worst. Jadarian Price is going to be early day 2 pick. So from here on out, there's a lot that can happen. My comp for Jonah Coleman is Blake Corum, another shorter back who, right, not great speed. I think he could have a role in an offense. Obviously, you're hoping you don't fall behind a guy with a similar-esque skill set in like a Kyron Williams, where you're just kind of playing the same role. You're hoping that he finds, a team where he has a more defined role from a fantasy perspective, at least, right? Because Blake Corum has been good. You just don't know what you're getting week to week with Blake Corum. And that's the worry with Jonah Coleman is if he finds himself in that kind of offense, you just don't know what you're going to see week to week with him. So a guy who is going to have a nose for the end zone. But again, there is no guarantee once he's drafted that he has a true role in an offense that you're ever going to be able to trust from a fantasy perspective.
I just want to say I was about this close, like this close from giving a Sony Michel low end comp, which.
So you mean he's going to be a beast, playoff hero, Sony Michel
for 1 year, and then hey, that's about it. But like that's kind of what you're looking at for downside is that, like, hey, if Jonah Coleman pans out and he finds the right situation with draft capital and all that kind of stuff, he can be a David Montgomery type where he can give you maybe 6 or 7 touchdowns. Like, because again, he is just short yardage goal line guy in a split backfield. But on a low end, because he just doesn't give you much of anything else besides that, he may only get 1 contract and then he's just going to be hopping around from team to team, maybe practice squad to practice squad, because there's something there, but it's just not game-changing stuff.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you're not overly high on Jonah Coleman. So does that mean that this guy, Emmett Johnson, is your running back 3? Or how do you land between the 2 of them?
Yeah, Emmett Johnson. When I finalize my grades, there's about a 90% chance that Emmett Johnson's going to be my running back 3. I'm just going to get this out of the way. Okay. I've referenced it a couple times since we did the mock draft. Yes, I did slip up and I said that Emmett Johnson was a thumper. Okay. That's not what I was wanting to say. Because what I was really wanting to say, what I was trying to say is that he is competitive. He is tough for his size, which isn't like a caveat thing at all. I'm just saying, like, for a guy with his size and his skill set, which is definitely more utilized in space and in the receiving game, he is tough and you're going to get his best at all times. So yes, my fault for attributing that to thumpers only. Emmett Johnson, definitely not a thumper. Okay. So now that's out of the way. Emmett Johnson's footwork it's up there in this class for being among the best. I think Jeremiyah Love is probably going to take it. Emmett Johnson his footwork is definitely his calling card. He's at his best when he can plant a foot, take off kind of in that one cut style. The problem is just that you're not going to find many times where he can string together multiple moves. It's just going to be one cut. And again, he's competitive and he's tough. So he's going to battle when you get arms on him, but it's not going to result in 1 to 3 extra yards after contact. It's going to be, maybe nothing, 1 run, then the next it's 1. Kind of that's kind of just the downfall of Emmett Johnson and his size. But I do think that there's a role for Emmett Johnson in the NFL at this point because of the skill set, because of his ability in space, and his ability, again, on one cuts just to make people miss. Some team is going to be very intrigued by that possibility.
He's going to be one that testing is going to be important for. It's right. We're going to be able to see kind of that top end speed. We're going to be able to see, does he actually come in at 200 pounds? Is he 195? Is he 205? Right. And it's silly that those 10 pounds make a difference, but they do for teams, right? That they make a big difference for teams. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where he comes in. My comp for him was a Travis Etienne I think Etienne, again, I think he has slightly better top end speed than Emmett Johnson does. I should say he's what Travis Etienne should be, right? Etienne sometimes does get a little too like we're indecisive. When Etienne's at his best, he's playing that one cut and go. He's finding the hole. He's good in space, catching the pass. That's what I think Emmett Johnson is good at. That's what I think when he's at his best, right? That's what he's doing as well. So again, it's going to be interesting to see what does the role actually look like for him. He might be one that you're sitting there the whole time like, if he could just get around, like if this guy just wasn't there, right? If this player, like this other running back, wasn't in the backfield with him, if he just got the full opportunity, we'd really see how special he was. He kind of feels like that back to me a little bit, that you're just sitting there and you're always kind of wanting more Emmett Johnson and you just never quite get it. I'm not saying he's like Kenneth Walker, but just that kind of like backfield situation where you're like, just give him the ball more. And again, I don't think he's going to, like Kenneth Walker, I think is an absolute stud. I think Emmett Johnson can be a good player. I don't think he's going to be quite there, but I just think you're going to be feeling that a lot with him in fantasy.
I would agree with that. My comp for him, I got some Tyjae Spears vibes.
Ooh.
Where it's again the one cut and go. And when Tyjae Spears was coming out of school, it was like, man, you could dream of the possibilities in both the rushing and the receiving game. And Emmett Johnson, I don't want to say that he has a production that Tyjae Spears didn't have, because Spears is pretty productive at Tulane, but
he does have both ACLs.
Maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's why Emmett Johnson may pan out, because he has both ACLs. But obviously Emmett Johnson isn't the speedster that Tyjae Spears is. But again, I find maybe the best way to say it, I like what Emmett Johnson brings to the rushing department and the receiving capability that he has will at least give him a longer leash, in my opinion, compared to what Tennessee has given Tyjae Spears. Emmett Johnson's going to have a longer leash and a bit more runway to kind of prove to teams that like he can be a mainstay in an offense, maybe specifically on passing downs and kind of a change of pace type of running back. But he's another one of those. Emmett Johnson's another guy like Tyjae Spears. I was big on Tyjae Spears coming out, where I'm just like, man, the possibilities. Okay. Like I was thinking about this and I would hate it, not just for Emmett Johnson, but for the other running back on this team. Can you imagine Emmett Johnson with Sean Payton? Can you imagine what Sean Payton can do for Emmett Johnson in the receiving game to get him in space? That would be
the Joker.
Lethal. He would be the Joker. Okay. We thought it was Evan Ingram. No chance. We thought it was RJ Harvey. No chance. Greg Dulcich. Absolutely not. Adam Troutman. Absolutely not. Marvin Mims. No chance. Troy Franklin. Nah. It might just be Emmett Johnson if he finds his way to Denver.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing Pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the higher on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of Pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show.
And we're back, and now we kind of transition, right? We talked about two teammates at the top, then we go Jonah Coleman and Emmett Johnson, and then we got two more teammates, Kaytron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. And if you're looking, PFF has them ranked on their big board. That's what we're using for our draft projection right now as round 5 guys. Again, that could move to round 4, it could be around 6, but day 3 is essentially what they're saying the rest of the guys, last 4 guys we're going to talk about are at. So keep that in mind as we're talking about this, of no matter who we say they look like, you have to have it with they look like this guy, but are still a day 3 pick, and kind of have that in your schema. So we'll try to keep that in context, but I just want to kind of prime our brains to be like, okay, these are day 3 guys. Kaytron Allen was the more productive running back of the 2 Penn State guys this last season, especially. Nicholas Singleton missed a couple games with injury, but Kaytron Allen dominated the touches, dominated the yards. You'll see that when we move to Singleton's slide as well. Ty, who does he remind you of? Do you think he's now that we're getting back here in day 3 guys, is he worth the flyer, right? Let's say you're back a couple spots in the 2nd round and he comes up on the board. Is he a guy you'd look to trade up to try and take a flyer on in this draft? Or are we kind of at, for him being a later round pick, you're just like, I see him as a backup?
I think for Kaytron Allen, I hate to give like the landing spot caveat, because you could say that for every rookie running back, but Kaytron Allen has a skill set that at least gives you some hope that he could carve out a role as short yardage, goal line type of back. He's got a good frame. He's got good build for the NFL to be kind of that downhill thumper type of running back. There's a great stat from PFF. He averaged more than 3 yards after contact per attempt in his career at Penn State, and it got better all 4 years. So from his freshman to his senior year, I think his senior year, it ended at like 3.7 yards after contact per attempt. So this dude just finds a way to get extra yards. And that's just because, again, he is kind of that downhill runner. He is the physical runner. The problem that I run into, which probably would be the reason why I'm not going to go send a flyer out for Kaytron Allen when it comes to my rookie drafts, is because I think his ceiling is going to be pretty limited, because he's not a home run hitter. He is not the elusive type. He would rather just go through you, which teams will value to a certain extent, but there is also a time and a place where you need to make a guy miss in a phone booth. Kaytron Allen is not that kind of runner. So if we're not going to get a ton of chunk plays or big plays or the home run plays, right, because we don't really hit another gear when we get into space and we're trying to break away. We just kind of go at one speed. So again, that's what gives me enough worry that he is just, I don't want to call it pigeonholed, but he's going to be pretty limited in his role wherever he lands. Maybe a change of pace guy, because he is a pretty natural runner. But again, just he's not super elusive, and he'd rather just go through you. Again, there's a time and a place for that, but there's also a time and a place where you need to shake some guys off with some cuts and some elusiveness, and he just doesn't really bring that to the table.
Yeah, it's hard because he's not a guy who's ever going to be like a third down back. So
Right.
if you don't have that top end talent, it gets harder to carve out that role, right? If you're not going to be able to play on third downs, if you're not going to be able to be a true change of pace back, that's the issue. Is he's change of pace, but it's not like a true change of pace, right? It's just, he's just a different runner. I'll start with my comp. I see a lot of Joe Mixon in him. He's patient, Right. He's what am I trying to say? I think the patience is the biggest thing for me. He makes his cut. He goes. He's willing to let blocks develop, but he's not twitchy enough. He's not quick enough that he necessarily makes you pay. Right? He'll hit the hole and get a couple yards. But if you remember, Lev Bell was the best I've ever seen at being patient and then going. But when Lev Bell decided to go, he was 3 steps past everyone by the time they realized what hole he hit. Kaytron Allen's not going to do that to you, right? He might be patient. He might see the hole and go, but he's going to get caught. He's not going to run away. He's not going to make that cut fast enough that he's hitting home runs time and time again. So I think that's the limit for him. He's a fun guy to watch. Like you said, he's a natural runner. You can tell he knows what he's doing with the ball in his hands. It's just physical limitations on how good he can actually be.
Bingo. So my comp, I couldn't pinpoint a specific player, but he lands somewhere between Ramondre Stevenson and Kareem Hunt for me, which is kind of interesting because Ramondre and Kareem Hunt are definitely not like two peas in the same pod by any means. But I like
a lot.
like the Kareem Hunt aspect is the patience, the contact balance, because again, he is just such a sturdy guy that guys can just kind of bounce off of him. But then I see Ramondre because of the physicality that he can bring and the yards after contact production. So it's somehow kind of a blend and a merge between Ramondre and Kareem Hunt with their specific, skills and traits that Kaytron Allen just brings together one package. Yes, there are going to be there are going to be some people that are going to kind of plant their flag on Kaytron Allen, and I can kind of see it, but again, because of those limitations of not really being the most elusive, being the home run hitter and all those things, we can get chunk gains of 10 to 15 yards, but if we're looking for like 20 plus yards, those are going to be very few and far between.
We're moving on to the other Penn State running back, and it's funny because they're kind of the opposites of each other, right? One of them is a patient, natural running back who has good vision. It's just physical limitations of top end speed. And I do want to clarify, when we say physical limitations, we acknowledge that they're way greater than anything that we can do. We're comparing them to the greatest, the best athletes in the entire world. That's what we are meaning. So I just want to clarify that before we get the comments of, oh, look at these guys talk about physical limitations. It's like, yeah, we understand. We are a lot more physically limited than these guys. We get it. We're nitpicking because these guys are supposed to be the best in the world. Nicholas Singleton, though, is a guy who does kind of pop off the page a little bit, right? He's quick. He's explosive. He makes fun cuts. He was a full-time kick returner, right? So you're going to have that mixed in of excitement. He's the kind of guy, Ty, that is going to end up way too high on my board. And I'm going to get punished for it because of everything we kind of mentioned about his vision and stuff like that. When you're watching him, should I have hope that it's going to all work out, all pan out for Nicholas Singleton, or am I just going to be, is this the guy that I need to warn myself about and kind of pump the brakes on?
Again, the stupid little caveat, I think it depends on where he lands. And probably the best way to explain this is starting with my comp first, because it'll make sense after, but I'm stealing it from Lane Zierlein. His comp for Singleton is Isaac Guerrero, and I see it very, very similarly as well. Maybe not completely from a stylistic standpoint. I know most of our comps have been stylistic so far, but for Isaac Guerrero, when he was coming out of Louisville, there were some pretty big advocates for Isaac Guerrero there, and myself included, because I was just like, man, the possibilities, if he finds that right landing spot, like Isaac Guerrero could be a difference maker and could be a game changer because he's got the speed, he's got the explosiveness, and you're just like, man, if he finds the right spot. San Francisco was a great spot. You could imagine just the outside zone runs to get Guerrero into space on the outside. Unfortunately, he's just kind of battled injuries ever since he got into the league, but like very similar for Singleton, but in a different way because he's best just straight line. When it comes to cutting and changing direction and kind of reading what's in front of him and the vision and all that kind of stuff, that's not as seamless or as fluid as you would like it to be. But again, it's the combination of size and explosiveness for Singleton where you're just like, hey, man, you get you out in space in the receiving game because he can be of service in the receiving game. Let's just see what you can do. Maybe you can turn something into nothing, or, you can turn nothing into something because, again, you do just have the ability to kind of wreck a game with your speed and with your playmaking ability. But at the same time, if we don't develop as a rusher, I don't know if he's exactly going to get as many opportunities as you want him to get to be that difference maker in the NFL. So maybe Isaac Guerrero is a bit of a low end comp just because Guerrero now seems to be kind of, special teams only. But I also kind of see that for Singleton of just like, hey, man, if we're not really showing coaches that we can improve and that we can develop in the rushing game when it comes to, again, cutting, changing direction and doing more than just something in a straight line, might just be limited to special teams because, again, that's when you can just go in a straight line.
Yeah, my comp's Trey Benson. And if you've been watching the show, I've been pounding the table hoping Trey Benson gets his shot. And he just feels very similar to me. He can hit the home run. He really can. He can do some special stuff on the field. But it's just getting to the point of hitting the home run. That's rough. That's what kind of takes away from his ability as a runner. He just doesn't quite ever get there. And in the NFL, those gaps, those holes that you're running through are a lot smaller. The vision has to be greater because you're playing against the best athletes in the world. So that's my worry. I guarantee he's going to be a guy I'm still too high on. Who's going to break my heart because I fall for these guys every single time. And he is fun to watch, but yeah, that's where I fall with Singleton. And these last two, Ty, we're going to do quick hitters, and we say quick hitters all the time. This time we mean quick hitters, mainly because in my research, I've only done the first 6 players. So these last two I haven't watched. So this, Ty, I'm going to hand this off to you. I'm going to give it to you. You can give me your 20, 30 second little bit. We're talking about guys going in the 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th round, depending on where we're falling here. So keep that in mind when we're talking about these. Mike Washington is a guy that I know he's got a little sweet spot for you. So comp wise, where do you land on Mike Washington?
I see kind of Jay Ajayi 2.0 in this, where you've got ideal size, you got the speed to work or to combine with that, and also then the play strength, because again, you are 6 foot and almost 230 pounds. At least that's what your school listed you as. Impressive cuts and hops with fast feet, which gives him that ability to just kind of get going at any moment when he finds a lane. The thing that ultimately hurt Jay Ajayi, and again, why I landed on that comp, is just because there was not a lot of production in the receiving game and not the most laterally fluid. He was pretty stiff going side to side, and I kind of see that with Washington too. And probably the biggest red flag that I can have for Mike Washington, 7 fumbles in the last 2 years. Not a great number. So you don't want to say that like, well, if he cleans it up, like, he could be a stud, because you could say that for everybody. But I think Mike Washington is going to have, and Washington's another one of these kind of bigger backs that I've always gotten burned on. Damian Martinez, if anyone remembers that name, that you look at it and you're just like, man, like it could all work out so well. It's all about opportunity, and Washington may get 1 or 2 years. That's also kind of what Jai got, and eventually, like, he kind of got pushed out because there were some better players that came in behind him. So, Mike Washington's a fun little player, but keep it realistic. I think that's the best thing that I could say about Mike Washington. Keep it realistic with him. Don't let your lofty expectations become your reality for him.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Damon Claiborne, who they do project on PFF to sneak into the 5th round. So maybe we'll see. He is a much smaller running back, right? Is that right? 5'7", 185. Is that what he's at? Something.
Oh, it's 5'9", I believe. 5'9", 187.
So he's a smaller back for sure. So obviously, we're going to get one of those types of comps. Where do you land on Claiborne?
I got a bit of like a Keaton Mitchell vibe.
Ooh.
Got maybe some Bashal Tutin, and like Bashal Tutin is more, maybe the best way to say this, stylistically is more Keaton Mitchell, but Bashal Tutin vibes, because you're just like speed, hello, speed. And you kind of get excited about that. But Keaton Mitchell, I think, is better just because both are on the smaller side. Definitely quick, a lot of short area quickness with both of those guys. They're dynamic in space. And again, because of their speed, like, they are a threat, but it's just a matter of like, well, your size isn't exactly going to get you on the field or keep you on the field at all times. So for Claiborne, yeah, you may have the top end speed. You may have the ability, because of how fast you are, you can eat up space in front of you. Got to clean up fumbles and drops, though. That's kind of been the downfall for Claiborne, at least in college, of just like, ball tends to be on the ground a lot more than you would want for a running back. So Claiborne's going to have, again, because of the playmaking ability with his speed, that's where the Bashal Tutin vibe gets into it, because everyone's going to be like, oh, hey now, you may not give him the reins to the backfield, but if you give him some opportunities a game, maybe one of them kind of is the home run, and that's kind of what you're hoping for.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I don't have anything to add here because I haven't looked at these guys yet. That will come before in 2 weeks when we do our top 36 Superflex rookie rankings. So do not worry. I will be more well-versed by then, but didn't want to just give you guys crap that I don't know what I'm talking about. So we turned it over to Ty. Next week, we have 8 winners of the combine, winners and losers, excuse me. And then we're also predicting NFL free agency. So it should be fun.
Ooh.
I know, Ty, you're going to be glued to the TV. Combine time, draft time is,
yes, sir,
is one of your favorites. I will be watching as well. So it should be interesting to see. And we're going to have a lot more information on these guys, especially these running backs going in to next week. Well, that does it for us today. Make sure you hit that notification bell, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, excuse me. If you want to follow us on the socials, FFLs on X, at Camel FFF for me, at Tyler_Plath for Tyler. The FFLs on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Fantasy Football Fellas Shorts on YouTube as well. We will see you next week. Deuces.
Deuces.